All right. So welcome to Casual Chat Live. I'm Brian Germain, and I have a really cool guest. Your nickname is Brooklyn? Tell me
No,
this. No, it's actually your name. I wasn't sure if you were like from Brooklyn.
no, people ask me that all the time. I
Yeah.
wish I were, because I have a
Okay.
cool accent, New York. That would
All
be,
right. Yeah, exactly. You don't have the accent. Of course, we can put that on if we want to. I'm from that area.
oh, really?
Oh yeah, I can talk the talk. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get
Oh,
a cup of coffee. You know,
forget about it. Forget
we'll talk.
That's awesome.
So tell me a little bit about you, because I mean, I ran into you through YouTube. I caught a little whiff of what you're sending out in terms of your video blog or podcast, or we want to call that, and it's awesome.
Thank you so much.
You've got a super good attitude. I love it.
I
So
appreciate it.
so tell me a little bit of your story.
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, it's been a lifelong journey for me, and something that has been totally unexpected in terms of like the spiritual aspect of it, I suppose.
Hmm.
Currently, I'm just chilling out and just kind of like allowing myself to be completely open to wherever this is taking me, and just kind of letting the universe be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Because I think that when I try to be in the driver's seat, things get too complicated. And
Yeah.
I'm learning how to just be very present and very open.
Yeah.
But I think I was just in a place where I was very uncomfortable with life, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what I was searching for, and I was looking everywhere trying to fulfill something, and nothing was satisfying it. And through the grace of just like things coming to me at the perfect time.
Synchronicities happen, right?
Yes,
If you're
yes,
open to it, if you're
yeah,
actually expecting miracles, you could call it that,
absolutely.
they show up.
I was actually getting into yoga, and I was on YouTube looking up some Kundalini, something about Kundalini, and I found a video by this guru, Moji. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he's
There's
like a
many.
duality type teacher.
Mhm.
And I was just like, what is this? So I clicked on it, and it was like hearing truth for the first time. And
Yeah.
it was so life changing. I was like, wow, what is he talking about? I didn't understand it, but it resonated very deeply. And I spent like the next 3 hours just like consuming all of that information.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. A lot of people have that turning point where they're sort of in the um, normal mind, if you could call it, the mind that our life experiences, our culture sort of creates in terms of the way we relate to the world and how we think of ourselves.
yeah,
And then something happens, and sometimes it's a trauma. A lot of times it's something like really bad that happens where your world ends. You can't go back, whether
yes,
it's an injury or something, or a divorce or something, or a life changing event where you have a baby, and suddenly that's different. And something catches your eye when you're in the darkness because it's brighter than where you are, and it draws you in, and from there it leads to many new places, right? Not just where it initially led.
the story of my life. That's exactly right. I mean, I was in a very toxic situation. I was in a bad relationship, and I wasn't loving myself at all.
Yeah.
And I knew that, it just doesn't feel right. Like, something's off. I'm quote unquote doing everything I'm supposed to do,
Hmm.
but I'm so deeply unhappy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like the beginning of it all. And it just kind of snowballed into something so much more than I could have ever anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a contrast thing,
Yes.
where you got to dim the lights a little bit enough to know where the real source of light is.
Yes.
And in my experience, we start down this road of seeing light outside of ourselves when we don't see any inside, and then we get drawn into different spiritual traditions or jumping out of airplanes like a lot of us do, you as well, right? And there's it becomes this like a pleasure button that you're able to push, whether it's I go to yoga class and I feel relief, you know
Yes.
and it starts to become eventually this go-to cheer up methodology. And then there has to be, in my experience, a transcendence beyond that mode, beyond that passage, where it's, I don't have to jump out of airplanes to be a happy person, right? Or I don't have to go to yoga class or sit at the foot of my master, because I start to see the light
Yes.
in me.
Absolutely.
That's the good stuff, right? Yeah.
It is. it's going through that spiritual fire and burning everything that is not you, what remains,
Yeah, some
that
part of
essence,
it.
living in that. So
Yeah, that's a good description of where we are as a world culture right now. It's one of the first times we could ever really define ourselves as a world culture, because we're all
yeah,
experiencing something other than like maybe the moon landing or whatever, where we all were joined in. We're all going through a phase where, hey man, we're in a genuine pandemic. This
yeah.
is real.
It's like the World War III we never expected,
Yeah,
the alien invasion, if
yep,
you will,
yep.
and
It is
fighting each other.
absolutely.
We have to come together to fight something, or
Hmm.
come together to help each other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that we will look back on it as a very positive, pivotal point, in the
yes,
way that many people say, "Oh, my cancer saved my life.
yeah,
My divorce saved my life."
yes,
And in my case, in many ways, I'd have to say that the pandemic saved my relationship,
yeah,
because it put me through the ringer. Where you're in the house, and whether you're in the house with a married person, or you're a parent, where you're always with your kids, or you're just with friends or roommates or family members, you're gonna butt heads when you're always with them. Always, it's guaranteed that you're gonna butt heads, and that has an opportunity to either blow up in your face, where you can't take it anymore, and you don't see the light, and you don't activate the function of forgiveness within yourself, which is, to me, the most important human capability.
absolutely.
And but if you do, something different happens, something brand new happens, and you break through this this impasse of, you pissed me off because of this, you pissed me off because of that.
Yeah,
you know
patience. I've gotten so much better. On the outside, I can be very patient, but on the inside, I
hmm
still feel the churning of,
yeah,
okay, okay, go away. I'm
yeah,
working through it. So
yeah.
it's it's flexing that muscle, getting those muscles
Use it
moving.
or lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. We have this unique opportunity to look in the mirror. That's, to me, all relationships. It's very much looking in the mirror, especially because I come from a oneness perspective, and I mean, not everybody's interested in this depth of philosophical perspective, but I'll briefly share the idea is that there's only one consciousness soup that
Mhm.
we're all part of, that there is only one mind. And it gets, there's different aspects of it, like rooms in a gigantic museum, where I'm in the room with the Tyrannosaurus Rex bones, I'm in the room with the whatever. And so for me, the consciousness of the individuals is joined like a mycelium underground that's sending up these separate mushrooms, the fruiting bodies. I'm not separate from you. And so because of that oneness unity perspective, I can't hate anybody, can't, you know, and I can't distance somebody's behavior patterns from me, because what I'm hating in their behavior patterns is obviously something that's in me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so reactive to it.
So true on so many levels.
Yeah,
So, Ramana says there are no others.
yeah,
So I have to remind myself there are no others. It's all
hmm
one.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that's hard sometimes.
It
But
doesn't look that way, does it? Like, I mean, you walk down the street and you see other, in these different bodies and these different roles that they're playing, and they may not have the wider awareness of any of that perspective at all, and they really think that they're one, they're alone, they're separate, and that they have no interconnectivity in terms of the cosmic web of consciousness. That my thought process and my emotions affect the people around me.
Mhm.
They affect me even more distally in terms of the non-local nature of consciousness. That
you know,
that feeling when a twin has an experience and the other twin has it. We have that capability as well.
yeah. And I've had to grow a lot in that, because when you start immersing yourself in this, you get excited. I wanted to share with everybody what the things that I discovered and found. And when people were just like, I'm not interested in what you're talking about, or I don't get it, or whatever, I found myself getting like frustrated or angry. But then I was like, I have to remember when I was in that space.
Yeah.
I was there. And then you learn how to have grace and love for that, because that's their personal
Right.
journey that you respect.
Yeah.
And then, and it's much easier to accept. It's
Yeah.
almost like laughing at a toddler just doing what they're doing, and just like, hey, I was there one time, and
Sure.
it's part of it.
Oh, we watch it all the time in skydiving. It's the best metaphor I've ever, in terms of learning, life experiences and dealing with the fear and dealing with, the self-image and all this, and pushing through. But you look at somebody who's got 10 jumps and they're just terrified.
Yeah.
And they're going, they're spinning out of control and they're having trouble with altitude awareness or whatever. And you remember, hopefully, if you're a good teacher or coach or friend, right? You don't have to be a rated jumper to sit on, at the bench, the picnic table or whatever, watching landings next to that person who's, they're down in the dumps because they just totally ate it. And they landed on the runway. They tore up their jumpsuit and maybe the rig, there's a drama going on in their head, and they think they're alone. And I think that's the root of suffering, is the belief that we're separate, that we're belief that our suffering is our suffering and nobody else's, and the fault is ours, and it becomes very personal, and that's painful.
That's why it's so important to have teachers like yourself, because if you're an educator and you can't see the compassion and have compassion for those people, it's very difficult to learn.
Yep.
In an environment where you feel like you're just sucking and you're not good enough. So
Right, exactly.
That's how you bring these philosophies to such a great sport.
It's a wonderful sport, whether somebody chooses to do it or not, because I have so many friends and family and clients that just, they don't get the skydiving thing specifically, but when you pull it in as a source of metaphors,
yes,
they get it. You talk about the idea of transitioning from one experiential reality to another, like a marriage or relationship, or the transition from I'm mourning the fact that my old life is no longer present because I have kids now and I can't do that anymore. I want to go paint the town red, you know what I mean? And I got babies to change their diapers, and I'm mourning the loss of my old life. And it's that transition from, yep, I'm committing to cutting away and opening my second parachute. It's a new life. And acceptance,
yes,
right, is a big one. It's a big part of it. And sometimes we have to face ugly realities that yes, it is different. And I can make this, quote, ugly reality into a learning experience that is actually beautiful, because it's offering me the contrast.
yeah,
It's going to launch my new dreams of what would be better than this.
absolutely. And it's such a good example of teaching yourself to just let go. We have these tendencies, we're comfortable, and we like things exactly the way they are. We don't want things to change. And when we're pushed to expand, it's scary, but it's not what's happening. It's just, you don't know what's on the other side of that. I mean, I can say, like, my first few jumps, it was never, once I got out of the plane, there was no fear, but it was the idea of being in this small space and leaving. But, like, when I was able to do it and see that, oh, it's not something that I'm afraid of. It's just an idea that I'm not comfortable with. And now that I see what's happening,
Yep.
that's what it is. And
right. And if you choose to be the kind of person that accepts uncomfortableness,
yes,
and decides that that's, this is as calm as you're going to be in this skydive, or this is as comfortable you're going to be with walking around in the city with, a mask on your face, not knowing what you can touch and what you can't touch. You don't know who's sick and who's not sick, and you don't know the state of your own immune system. It's very easy to fall into a feeling of helplessness.
yes,
Right? Almost like you've jumped out of an airplane in the clouds and you don't have an altimeter. I feel like that's what, we're moving into this new phase where we are going to have to come off lockdown. I don't know if it's this month or even this year, but at some point we're going to have to climb out of our, little shells here.
Come out of the caves and into the sunlight.
It's going to be a really almost painful, fearful experience for many, many people. And I think we need to start talking about it now, even before we're getting there.
Absolutely.
To talk about empowerment as a means to combat the fear and rationalize in logic, to bring in logic to our process of evaluating what's a reasonable risk and
Mhm.
what's just plain stupid,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Right? They're talking about like Congress members today. I'm not going to say which party, but a lot of them, they're refusing to wear their masks, and they're trying to show how brave they are. That's like jumping with only one parachute. That's not brave. That's dumb.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so disrespectful to the people who are on the front lines trying to keep everyone healthy, the doctors and nurses and the people who are with compromised immune systems.
Yeah.
Actually, I had an experience. I mean, I've been home and it's been nice and as nice as it can be under the
Mhm.
circumstances. But last week, my stepdad had a stroke and I had to take him to the emergency room.
That's
And
exciting. Whew.
he's okay. Everything's good. We got him there very quickly. But it was such an eye-opening experience going to the emergency room, and it was like a drive-through drop-off, and these people in these suits, and they were like, "Don't get out of the car. What's wrong?" They took him. Write your name and number on this little piece of paper. It's gonna be a while. That's what they told me. It's gonna
Wow.
be a while. Goodbye. And then you
Wow.
just go home. Like, wow, this is
Wow.
serious. Like, I can't imagine being someone with a loved one in the hospital with this. Or there's so many people who are dying without their families around them, and
Yes.
that really
Yeah.
gave me a perspective that I didn't realize. So I'm really grateful
Yeah.
to understand that and have empathy for that and try to, keep that in mind. It's not just about us being bored at home. It's so much more, so we
Yeah.
have to come together and really support one another in this.
Yeah.
So,
I like the perspective that you were sharing on that, because when I find myself in that kind of a thought process of, oh wow, I would be separated from my loved ones, that's horrible. We need to immediately leap into the solutions, which
yes.
is one part of it. Absolutely, absolutely. Maybe we can come up with answers for that. But before we go down that road, we need to go into the compassion mode first. We
Mhm.
need to feel what we're feeling, and I'm not always very good at that. I mean, maybe that's just a born male thing. I don't know. It's true that we tend to just want to solve problems, and women have a tendency to say, let's talk about how we feel about this. And we're both right. But I
Mhm.
think that the step one is to focus on how you feel and accept it. Whether it's, you're mad or you're scared or whatever it is. But one of the feelings that doesn't really exist is apathy. I don't think it
Mm.
exists. I think that it's the little death that becomes the full death. That little by little people find themselves not wanting to feel those feelings, and
Yeah.
they disengage completely, and then their core, their heart shuts down,
Yeah.
and then your will to live and your ability to interact and really ebb and flow with the people that you love and stay with them where
Right.
they are.
Right.
It might not be fun for you, but being in love is fun, even if it's painful, right? I mean, to me, that interaction
Yes.
is the reason why we're here. But I
Yes.
really I'm thankful that you spoke it that way. That we need to feel for these folks that are in the hospital right now. How
Yes.
many? How many of them are feeling very alone right now, very scared? And maybe they got their phone, maybe they don't. In hospitals, they don't usually let you do that. Maybe that's a good thing. That you're not surfing the people call it fear porn. All the stuff that's on the internet of justification why you know we can draw the conclusion that the worst case scenario is going to play out.
Right.
Um,
It's interesting. I just had a thought. Like, we feel these negative emotions so strongly, but what if we could feel things like gratitude as strongly as we feel fear? Can you imagine?
yep,
Like,
we can.
compassion?
I deeply believe we can, but I think we gotta try.
Yeah.
We got to try that little bit harder
Yeah.
to tap into, first of all, establishing our intention to do so.
Mhm.
Right? Intention is what pushes all consciousness, and then as a result, all matter
Yes.
forward in the direction that we expect and that we intend. And so then I think there needs to be this listing. Right? I sit down a lot with notebooks, or just chattering away with my fingers on the keyboard, going, what is it that I love about being locked down in my house, being in stay at home or whatever you call it.
Mhm.
What do I love about that? my resistance goes, well, why bother? That's just ridiculous. Let's fight against the machine. Let's fight against the oppressive, reality, whether it's, you're mad at the disease, or you're mad at the government, or you're mad at your wife because she's more worried than you are, or whatever. It's just, it's a waste of your time to go down that road. I think it's important to just accept. And then, if you can't change it, why are you going to bitch about it?
The resistance is worse than anything at all. It's such a waste of energy trying to fight something that is. It will not go away. So accept it, watch it. And I talk myself through it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Abraham Hicks. Okay, so I really love the way that they go through the stages. Okay, things are not going my way right now. That is true. Okay, there's no resistance there. And, I think I would like things to be different than they are, but they're not. And I would like to see what I could do about that. I would like to find something that makes me feel better. And you just kind of work slowly at it. And then, because I think that it's so unrealistic to expect people to say, no, everything's great, everything's fine, when they're not feeling that way, because they know they're lying to themselves.
Exactly.
It's not about the words that you say, it's about the energy behind it. So
energetic confidence. Yeah, exactly. Your ability to accept is how we get in line with where we're already headed and then steer it. I call it spiritual Aikido. It's something that we can do interactively, but also we can do it within our own consciousness. So the concept of Aikido is basically, imagine there's two forces. You can impose then two people, one aggressing towards the other, and the one that it's coming towards has the potential to get hurt. Obviously, right? This is an attack of some kind, or an advance, call it. And you can go force against force, and now you both get hurt, whether it's emotional or otherwise. Or you can move out of the way of danger enough that you're not going to get hit, but that you envelop in receive and pull in the direction that it's already going, that where it's headed, and then you take the spiral path down into harmony and balance. So that's the principle of the martial arts of Aikido, and there's many different ways that can unfold. But to receive the energy after first getting out of the way of the danger, they call arimi, moving to this space that is safer, and it's only just a little bit to the right or to the left of the punch or the sword or whatever it is that they're teaching about, but you take it and pull in the direction it's going, and then take that spiral path down into the earth. And I think, wow, that's pretty much what we need to apply to everything.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's perfect. It's perfect. And I think that when, as Abraham says it very, very effectively in so many different ways, that you got to just embrace, the truth of how you feel, and call it a yes and, not a yeah but, a yes and, I feel like crap, and I like the idea of feeling a little better. I'm nowhere near there. I'm rattling the bars of my cage, but I really like, the idea that I desire freedom.
Yes.
I desire to run through the streets with no mask on my face, and to be able to hug random people. I want to set up a sign on the side of the road and say free hugs. I would love that. I would love that. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a start of a movement of the emotion in the right direction.
Yes.
But I think that's, people go, well, why bother talking about all this positive airy-fairy crap? Yeah. When we got to get down to business, we got bugs to kill.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the truth is, more than bugs to kill, we have people to feed.
Yeah. Oh, I saw something where they're throwing away crops of food, and it's just so, I can't even.
It's going to change. It's going to change, isn't it? Because it has to change. What else are we going to do?
I mean, the things that we're seeing, the improvements with the environment, and just seeing how we affect everything around us so greatly.
Isn't that a great experiment we just ran? Right? To be able to disengage the humans from the ecosystem as much as possible without actually dying. And you go, wow, look at that. The smog went away and the fish are coming back. My friend is a helicopter pilot in Miami, and he said you can see the grasses coming back. You can see like it looks different. The water, you can see right through it, whereas before it was all gross and muddy.
It's amazing. And it's such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
The earth is so intelligent and so perfectly designed. And we think we're so important, but it's like,
Well, we are important.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
we don't deserve to step on her toes.
we need to take our responsibility a little more sincerely. And
not so much denial,
Yes.
Not so much denial of oh, somebody else will take care of it, and where my impact matters.
Yes, absolutely.
And yet the other side of it is I deserve my footprints in the sand, don't I? I'm of the species on this planet that is capable of thinking in a way that no other creature, as far as we know, can think. You know what I mean? And that our capability of reaching out to help other species, that capability is amazing, and it's special, and it's different.
Yes.
From other critters here, and we're capable of love, which is pretty amazing.
Oh, it's all it is. And I think that kind of answers what we were talking about. Why talk about all this positivity? Because when we are in alignment with that, we can do all of these wonderful, fun, playful things, because when our actions are based in love, we're taking care of these things innately. I mean, it's just the way we move about. We're not going to do things that cause suffering or destruction. It's just not going to be a byproduct of that. And so that's why I feel like it's so important to drive home this higher emotional intelligence and just teaching people how to operate in a more aware space.
To be able to look in the mirror and be honest about who we're actually being in relationship to who we really dream of being, who we are on the inside. That fearless self that is here to share, to teach, to heal other people, to whatever your niche is. There's a larger version of you that exists on the other side of your fear, your recalcitrance, your worry that you're going to be the weird neighbor that has the backyard garden.
Yeah.
In my case, the chickens now. That fear of being the oddball causes us to carry out the inertia of where things have been going, which is unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
We can't accept the fate that it's heading towards, which is, disastrous. Okay, fine, great. Every time you jump out of an airplane, you're dead. Doesn't mean that skydivers die every jump. You jump out of the plane and go, yep, that's where I'm headed. I need to change my vector somehow.
Absolutely.
The angle of arrival is inversely proportional to the probability of survival. So we have to find a way to flare our society. And I understand it's a very heavy wing loading. We got a lot of people. We have a lot of infrastructure that's based on the old way, the fossil fuels and all these other things. The way that we generate electricity is ridiculous. We can do much better. And now we're going to, have to push forward into this new space, and whatever old forces, you could call it, that are supporting the old systems.
Sure.
They're just going to have to get with the program or step aside.
Yeah, I totally agree. Are you familiar with Thomas Hubel at all?
Thomas
Hubel, H-U-B-L. He's a German. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but he works with the collective trauma.
I don't need to write it down, but I will anyway, just in case the recording doesn't work. H-U?
H-U-B-L.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he talks about the collective consciousness trauma healing and how past traumas are passed through our DNA, and that we're all living triggers and these fears that come from lineages of just normal things, and how we need to come together and work through those things so that we can feel more connected to one another and heal our consciousness.
Yes, I think that's exactly why this is happening. I think we were the ones that were out of balance the most, and I think nature just said, enough already. I'm going to give you a screwball, and you're going to have to work together. and you're going to have to change your ways. And, it's going to, we were the flea that the dog was like, enough already, you're bugging me too much. And it doesn't mean we're all going to die. It just means we're all going to change.
Change, yes.
And if
Wait that with death, but.
Well, hell yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're changing from something you were kind of digging,
Yeah.
I liked riding my gas guzzling truck to the drop zone and flying to altitude 10 times in a day in this gas guzzling airplane, and then throw my disposable water bottles in the trash. And
Sure.
I understand it flowed for you, but just because it's a flow doesn't mean that flow isn't going over Niagara Falls.
Right.
And I think that's where we're now facing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just so we'll change.
And I think that it offers such a unique opportunity for creativity, because we have all these engineers. Hey, let's start designing and implementing things with the structure and the purpose of not creating junk or not, wasting. How can we make it beautiful? How can we make it functional? How can we make it productive? So we have these opportunities to do new things, and I think it can be really, really exciting if we can.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's it. Really leaning into the challenge.
Yeah.
Like the wave surfer, it's out there, and here comes the big wave. You can brace for impact and just do this. You're going to get your butt kicked, or you can paddle hard and go downhill with that wave and say, full on, yes, I'm all in, pushing all my poker chips to the middle, and I'm going to commit. Commit to the intention of the higher ideals that we always wanted to in the first place. I think that everybody really did. People get soured on the positive because they start to lose hope that it's going to happen. And I think that's very, very sad, but we have to start with the hope that we can, as an individual, be happy and build off of that happiness into a reality that's sustainable outside of ourselves. And
we have to keep ourselves inspired. I mean, I remember when I was just angry, and you hear people say, well, just stay positive. That's the last thing.
That's not how I feel, right? That's not how I feel yet.
Oh, but
yep. Right. Maybe it would be easier to say to somebody, you have to work towards feeling positive.
Yes.
But right now, what you have to do is paddle your canoe through the mud, because that's where you are, and eventually you'll get on the lake, and then you'll get on the river, and this will be easy. But right now, you might have to put the canoe on your shoulders and portage.
Yeah.
Right? You do whatever you got to do. But if it's quote suffering, then I think it's important to also recognize that there is pain, and then there's the pain of pain, which is on top of it.
Yes.
Right? Which is the story of why this sucks.
Yeah.
How much of your day do you spend talking about why this sucks? Whether it's a broken leg and you can't skydive, or it's a broken society that's locked up in their houses, where it doesn't matter. I think there's a limit to how much the consciousness can get attacked by itself with negativity before it just falls into apathy.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of it's sort of a inner spark suicide, and you can't really die, in my opinion, but your body sure can.
Sure.
Your body is fueled by consciousness. It's fueled by the desire to follow through with passionate ideas, like you say. The inspiration of what's in you right now. Yeah.
And I think that we should spend more time helping other people learn how to suffer. I don't think no one tells us how to suffer. And with my experience being a preschool teacher, it was a lot about that emotional development. You'd have children who they're playing on the train track and the train falls apart and they just have a meltdown.
Yes.
You can say, oh, it's okay here, and you fix it for them. You're not teaching them how to suffer. Hey, okay, calm down.
Yep.
When you're ready to talk about it, let's talk about it. Okay, so you're upset that this is happening. How can we fix it? What do you think? And you help them be the problem solver for themselves, and you don't just fix it up for them, because what that ends up doing is creating adults who can't fix their problems for themselves, or just
Yeah.
they want it to go away, you know, and it doesn't work that way.
Right. Right.
And you know, when I was growing up, the educational system had nothing like that. And I think, you know, it's changing, and with the psychological aspect of that being integrated into early childhood is really important, but there's still a long way to go. But I just don't
Oh, yeah.
think that we've been getting those emotional tools.
Yes.
You know, it hasn't been seen as something on the forefront of what we need to know. So
Yeah.
we'll always learn our ABCs, but can we adapt?
To the, yeah, to the pain, and being okay with it, knowing that,
Right.
yes, I understand the clouds are here. You can't see the sun. I get it. And you want to see the sun, whatever that means in terms of your contingencies, your happiness contingencies, right? If I get what I want, then I will exude happiness.
Right.
Is it willing, you know, are you willing to give up your happiness to get that thing? Or are you willing to just accept the fact that things will change eventually? You'll get what you want, or at least you'll get what you need, right? The Rolling Stones had that one, right? But the clouds will move past, but in the meantime, you have to realize that the real light is activatable within you always,
Always.
you know, right? You're capable of getting that breath of relief now in the middle of this spiraling parachute malfunction. You're capable of stepping up out of it and calming down and going, oh, this is exciting. I get to cut away. I get to dump my reserve. This is great, you know, and you get to, you know, prove to yourself how resilient you are. But I think that a lot of what goes on with these moments of suffering is this acting out, where you're trying to leverage your unhappiness, and even have your cup floweth over onto other people with your misery, you know, and then maybe they'll give me what I want if I'm, you know, loud enough, miserable bastard,
Right.
and they'll serve me, and that becomes a leverage tool. And then that becomes our MO, that becomes our winning formula, where it's a racket that we play.
I want to speak to the manager now. Yes, sir. Anything. Just, you know, customer's always right.
Are you a grown-up, or are you, you know, the kid with the broken blocks that wants the, you know, the grown-up to do it for him?
When I have a fit, someone comes in and they fix it for me. So having a fit is the answer, right?
Yeah, I think that being a preschool teacher is the best setup for being a life coach. I think there's nothing better, you know, or a psychologist or whatever, because you get to see these same archetypal behavior patterns that are in the human consciousness.
Yes.
And they're just normal things in the way that, you know, skydiving instructor, oh, you're doing the reverse arch ball up thing. You're doing the swim after you leave the airplane, because that's what people tend to do, unless they're trained in why there's this other way to do it, why this is a more powerful way, that this is going to lead you where you ultimately wanted to go, which is to be in control, to be, you know, and I don't mean in control of everyone else, but in control of yourself. And enjoying the experience and learning from the experience.
Yeah, having that confidence and that personal power.
Yeah. If a kid has the ability to cool themselves off, for instance, you know, and I'm not playing into their game, because I fall into it too. When my kids are crying, all I want to do is, you know, oh, it's my baby, you know, and am I really helping if I'm their source of comfort? Or, you know, think about our society, you know, these, you know, sort of tall male father figures who said, don't worry, everything will be okay. And, you know, whether it's the news or the politicians or whatever. And so where do I get to step in and be, you know, sort of in control of my own consciousness, my own faith, my own, you know, faith in myself? Let's do that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's kind of where we're both headed with all of this stuff, is the self-empowerment of individuals to realize that the turning point is not something outside of you.
Yes.
You know?
You're absolutely right. You know, I want to take it back to your chickens. That's really awesome. We're actually building a huge raised garden bed in my backyard with my mom, my stepdad, and my brother.
Beautiful. Awesome. Love it. It's super, super fun. We did exactly the same thing you'd see on some of my videos, and it's getting bigger, and we're, you know, and we've got a big compost for years.
Yes.
I don't know if I sort of, you know, kind of felt like something like this was coming, or it was just the probability in the way that a skydiver touches their handles, knowing that sooner or later you're going to need your reserve, right? Sooner or later you're going to need to pull. It's not neurotic to practice pulling, and it's not neurotic to start a compost, to start saving some beans and rice and things like that, because there's going to be a hurricane. You know, it's not paranoia. And I think that's important for people to recognize the difference between bravery, you know, and stupidity, and at the same time the difference between fearfulness and caution.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Those are the four main categories. And it's not being a chicken to get chickens. It's just good planning. You know, I love eggs. You know, I don't like to eat a whole lot of meat, so there you go. You know, we have our eggs, and our neighbors will too.
Perfect.
We actually got a lot of chickens, because they're cheaper when you buy them in a big, you know, baker's dozen kind of thing. And so we're, you know, sharing them with our neighbors. Neighbors don't complain if they have chickens too.
Right. What a great opportunity to have community and just, you know,
Yes.
fellowship with other people, and kind of, you know, so many people don't even know who their neighbors are.
Yes. Well, hopefully they're going to wake up right now from that old way, and just say, yeah, I want to, you know, maybe I'm not going to, you know, come into their house for a few months or a year or whatever, but I can say, hey, listen, we got a lot of potatoes. We got a lot of potatoes, but we ran out of butter. You guys okay with, do you have any butter? We could do a little, you know, this is the way it's going to go. And it's not going to be that, you know, a federal government or a state government or whatever that's going to come in and save us. Yeah, we might get some checks, but you can't eat a check.
Yeah.
Especially if the stores are empty.
Absolutely.
So
And
it's like neighbors.
the fear of the economy, it's like there's so much more than just the paper money. You know, we are the economy, and we can make the material whatever we want it to be. Money's great, you know, makes life pretty easy. But if I've got a bunch of something and you've got a bunch of something else, and we can exchange,
yeah,
what would you need money for, really? Exactly. So, you know, in times where it seems like we're not really certain where, you know, the financial aspect of it's going, we can still be okay. You know, it's not the end all be all of everything.
Exactly. Yeah. You have potluck suppers and, you know, that sort of thing. This is the idea of stone soup. You know,
right.
People are really having hard times, and you always hear stories. I mean, I did growing up about, oh, they survived the Great Depression. Right, you hear that a lot. Oh, my grandmother or whatever, my great uncle, they survived the Great Depression, and that's why they're a hoarder, you know, or that's why they tend to, you know, be a paranoid bean saver or whatever. And then you start to look at them now and go, maybe they're not so stupid, you know, maybe that's not paranoia. That's just you being ready to shore up for the storm, to be able to, you know, reef in your sails, to be able to ready to, you know, do whatever it is that you need to do to get through it. And part of that resource management is people, is relationships, it's friendships. You might not agree with their political party affiliation, but at this point, I don't think you care. If they have a lot of broccoli, if you don't have any broccoli, and you have a lot of, you know, none of that stuff's going to matter. None of it. And I think we're already starting to wake up to that reality. And, you know, we'll do what we have to do, and we'll make music together, even if it's across the street, you know, banging the drums.
I love it. I love the creative spirit that's coming out of this. People are doing their art and music and just having a lot of fun with it. So really,
absolutely.
We need that.
Creativity comes from that. I think that the creativity has a dichotomy to it. There's destruction and creation all in one.
Yes.
And when you squeeze that lemon, man, we're really, I think, because of the suffering, because of the challenge, it's showing us our beautiful light. You know, it's showing us what we're capable of as a species. And yes, there's a flip side to this that one could dwell upon, right? It's always there. It's always there. You can go to the drop zone and you go, yes, all these people are having fun, but remember that guy that broke his leg and how he was screaming? Yeah, that's reality too. And I can embrace that, and I can love him, and at the same time, I can utilize the information that I got from his mistake that he made when he turned his parachute into the ground, and I can not be that guy. And I can be
Yes.
somebody that shares the information that helps everybody detour around that pothole of possibility of, you know, hitting the ground or starving to death or isolating yourself or developing miserable bastard syndrome because you keep
Mhm.
telling the story of the negative side of it and you don't ever cheer yourself up with appreciation
That's so true.
for the beauty.
Yeah. I'm doing a lot of research on permaculture.
Yeah,
I think that is awesome.
keep doing that. Share that. Share that information.
And just, soil. Something simple as soil. Like we don't learn about that. It's something that you have to seek out. But soil is so important.
Yep.
I like to make all of these analogies. So like the soil, making sure it's rich with all of the nutrients for all the seeds to grow. It really, to me, is like the soul, our
Oh
soul.
yeah.
We have to make sure that we are taking these bad times as like fertilizer and kind of enriching ourselves with these experiences so that the seeds of love and seeds of compassion and all these other things can grow strong
Sure.
from us.
That's why I'm a composter. I
Yeah.
haven't been for years and years and years. Everything is compost, whether it's an experience that's bad or good. It can be a rotten old apple, not
Yes.
good for eating, but it goes in the compost and you till it into your soil and it becomes the fertile ground that your seeds grow out of, and that does feed you
It's
in a
how
way
you,
that nothing else can.
yeah, absolutely.
Let's do that, right? Let's do that. We used to have, I remember when I was in college and I was taking some classes in environmental studies, coast to coast in this nation, on this continent, we had on average about 6 feet deep across the country of topsoil. 6 feet
Hmm.
topsoil. When I went to college a long time ago, it was down to less than 6 inches. And now it's probably less than that due to poor farming practices, erosion, right? Which is why the idea of box gardens and things like that. And it's very, very important that we stop just throwing away grass clippings and turn that into the soil. Stop throwing away our apple cores and whatever. I mean, obviously meat you don't want to put in a compost, but everything should be going back. And if you live in the city where there's no place to do that, there must be community programs where this is the garbage can, this is the compost can, it goes to a different place.
Yeah.
And then you can go check out some soil as a member of society on the other end of that system.
We have the capacity to make
Yeah.
doing the right thing easy. So you just have to make the systems, put them in place, and people will do the right thing. But if it's more of a hassle than doing the wrong thing, well, you're asking people too much sometimes. I mean,
I don't think we have a choice anymore. I think that we're just going to have to accept our reality and create a version of our reality that actually works,
yes.
that is sustainable, that's not koanaskatsi.
Our human potential is so great, and it's so beautiful. There's so much beauty in the human spirit.
Yeah. I haven't given up on us at all.
Oh no.
I've given up on a lot of our ways, but as
Yeah.
far as what's in here, when you look into the eyes of a child, there's nothing originally sinful about that beautiful child.
No.
There's
Right.
nothing evil, and you go, wow, but humans, they grow up to be these demons that destroy the environment and they kill each other and they develop these walls between people and countries and all these things and wars. But that's just the channel that we happen to be watching.
Absolutely.
Same TV set can put on a beautiful nature program.
Exactly what popped into my head.
Yeah.
Something.
Let's do that. Let's change the channel to permaculture, TV, or we're going to change it to gardening TV, learning how to, specifically grow your, mung beans in your house.
Yeah.
Because people can grow things in the city. You should see. I mean, I've got a cousin in New York City. She's growing all kinds of stuff in her tiny, tiny, tiny apartment that she hasn't left in like 2 months.
That's awesome. I've been doing that. I got a little pineapple. I'm so proud of that's growing
Awesome.
on the windowsill.
Yep. I've got a bunch of those. Let's do that. So, to me, I feel like this is the way we face fear.
Yeah.
In the way that I check my parachute and I feel better. I'm not scared about skydiving because I check my parachute.
Yeah.
I built my parachute, but so the more we can get into the nitty gritty of the solutions,
Mhm.
and let that process turn into hopefulness.
Yeah.
Hopefulness that this is going to be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, not just fine. It's going to be exactly what we needed.
Exactly what we need. I really like that.
Yeah, right on. Cool. Well, I think this was one of the most enjoyable interviews I've done in quite some time, and
Oh,
I
I had such
want
a
to thank you. I
thank
want to
you
thank you
so much.
very, very much. So you can check out your YouTube channel is called
Brooklyn Elizabeth Brown. I don't have enough subscribers to have like a fancy URL, but just search
Oh,
Brooklyn Elizabeth.
that's
You'll
fine.
find
It's
me.
easy to remember. You're doing really good stuff. You're radiating sunshine in a time of darkness, and eventually it will spread.
Yes,
People will hear your message. They will be, moths attracted to the flame, because that's what we are. I think as a species, we do love.
yes, we
You know
do.
what I mean? We do love positive
Yes.
vibes. Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Brian. You do the same. You're just phenomenal. I love everything you do, and just keep doing it. I can't get enough of it. We need
Right
it.
on. All righty. Well, I will. I don't know
Yes.
how. I don't think I have a choice. I will
Love
be who I
to
am.
you and your
Right on.
family. Stay healthy and stay happy.
Of course.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And all who joined us live on Facebook and who will see us on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. Keep doing what you do, shining your light.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. You too.
My whole purpose in life has been to help people deal with fear. And of course, the way that I connect to that is connecting to my own fear, to recognize in moments like jumping out of airplanes in the middle of nowhere over the mountains is this acute sense of fear, right? So the feeling that I currently, right now, if I don't do certain things, I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get killed. But the other aspect that I've noticed within my own fear is that there's a cold version of it where I'm not in a torrent of kinetic energy. I'm perfectly safe in this moment, but there's a sort of hypothetical existential risk. Might be money related, could be relationship related, could be career related, or prestige, or anything that you might feel like you're going to lose something that you're not willing to lose. Either way, whether it's hot or cold, I find that the beginning of the shift out of the fear mentality is to stop thought, to step out of the thought process that has led us to feel scared, right? To feel threatened, to feel like we're powerless to solve our problems, powerless to get ourselves out of danger or away from the consequence that we're not willing to kind of pay the price for. So that, I think, is one of the hardest parts. Because stepping out of thought, when that thought is right in your face, the conclusion that you need to act, you need to attack, you got to go on the retreat, you have to escape. All of those instincts that are built into us have inherently, there's an escape mechanism that's available to us that it's very easy to forget. That even in a moment where you're under canopy and you've got the kinetic energy going on, you've got the responsibility of this altitude, and you got to put yourself to rest somewhere safely. There is the opportunity to have a micro level escape, like a mini meditation, where you take the deep breath and you calm yourself down and you relax and you let go of the conclusions that you've initially drawn, the conclusions that have led you into the experience of fear. And of course, this is a skill that we all have to cultivate. And by that I mean the longer meditations that we do, whether it's yoga or a long walk in the forest or you're paddling your kayak or you just simply get out of your house, and just go for a walk and clear your thoughts, leave your phone at home or at least off, and be here in this moment, letting go of thoughts, focusing on your breathing, getting accustomed to the silence of your mind. And if we do this on a regular basis, most of us have experienced this at some point in our lives, where we escape thought and we escaped identity and ego and the threatenable stance of I am, and therefore I can be injured, I can be killed, I can be threatened. If you step out of that and you just be here now, and you breathe and you relax, and naturally what starts to happen is it's like you've been holding the cork underwater and it starts to float again. Your happiness, your positive perspective, your sense of power over your life, all of that starts to flow back in when we start to breathe and be here in this moment and let go of the urgency. And people say, well, okay, how am I going to do that when I'm flying down a mountain? Or under canopy looking around, I can't find a place to land. How am I going to bring that back in? Well, through repetitive exposure, through deliberate honing of your skill of letting go of thought to step out of your initial thought process. It allows you to bring that feeling in really quite quickly. And skydivers learn how to do this. Of course, maybe not at the beginning. New skydivers feel scared most of the time, if not the entire experience, until they have the relief of being back on the ground. And that euphoria that you get in the relief from danger sets up a repeating pattern where you want it more. You want to go and do it again. But what if you get that relief during the jump? And that is what I'm trying to nurture and describe the best that I can, to, in a kinetic moment, to disengage, to create an internal locus of control over your emotional experience, over your thought process, to sort of zoom up out of your body and look at it from a more objective perspective, from a higher perspective. To me, this is where we lift up out of our ego consciousness into the higher self, which is not, it's not injurable. It's not threatenable. It is a larger view of you. So what if in the next moment that you find yourself kind of caught up, what if you're to take a deep breath? What if you're to zoom back out to reactivate your connection with silence, and from there allow back in the bigger version of you, the one that sees the solutions? What if you did that right now?